everybody, I'm back on my channel Homeschool through High School to talk about my course recommendations for Challenge 3. I already did a video on my Challenge 2 recommendations, so you can check that out on my channel. I also talked about whether CC Plus, Classical Conversations Dual Enrollment Program, would be a good fit for your family in an earlier video. So if you're curious to know more about that, then go check those out. Again, my name is Rachel, and I just finished 11th grade this past year. I've been part of Classical Conversations for almost the whole time I've been homeschooled, and I've had the opportunity to participate in CC Plus courses. So in this video, I'm going to give my recommendations on the CC Plus courses you should take on Challenge 3. I'll go through the syllabus of each of those courses, and I'll give my feedback on them based on my experience taking the class, or if I didn't take the class, my experience with the guide. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. The first course that I want to cover is Challenge 3's option to take college algebra with CC+. Interestingly enough, this is offered only over the summer, not over the fall and the spring. And its syllabus is very different compared to other CC Plus courses. While most of the courses very strictly follow the guide, this course is very different and has much stronger administration feeling through SEU than Classical Conversations. The syllabus textbook that's required is not Saxon Algebra, but is an online learning lab platform. I personally didn't take this class, so I'm not going to talk about what the expectations are or what your experience is going to be through the class, other than I'm going to say that I would strongly recommend your student take something other than college algebra, or at least some level of college math beyond algebra, even if you do choose to take this class. If you're looking to get an associate's by the end of high school, or trying to get some kind of college math credit, my recommendation would be to either take pre-calculus or calculus math. The reason for this is if your student plans on getting a 4-year degree, it's going to look much better on their high school transcript if they've completed some amount of pre-calculus work. And if they plan on getting a STEM major, then some kind of calculus work. So what ways might your student be able to do this, you could be asking, if these options are not offered through CC+. My recommendation would be either taking dual enrollment through your local community college, or completing the coursework for these classes at home and then taking CLEP or advanced placement exams, which then would give your student the college credit that they need. If you're still looking to graduate with an associate's, you can get these credits transferred to your student's university, such as Southeastern University, and still get the credits. This is an overall look much better on your student's high school transcript when they're applying to colleges, and is much more likely to transfer to those colleges than college algebra would. So overall, I would give CC Plus's college algebra a low recommendation, not because of a difficult coursework, because I'm not familiar with the coursework itself, but simply because I would recommend that if your student is trying to go to a 4-year university, they get some amount of pre-calculus or calculus work before completing high school. This is CC Plus's grammar strand for Challenge 3. As you can see here, this is the fall syllabus. However, this class is offered in both the fall and spring. This is Latin 2. And I didn't take Latin when I was in Challenge 3, so I'm just going to go over what's in the syllabus here and not go into it too deeply. Again, this is Henley, the 3rd-year Latin textbook. One of the most important things to note is that you must have completed Latin 1 when you're taking this program and must have the college credits for it. So that means you're either going to have completed Latin 1 when you're in Challenge 2, or you're going to have completed Latin 1 somewhere else and you'll need to transfer that to SAU. And the syllabus is very similar to what you would have seen in Latin 1 with Challenge 2 exercises. There's no vocab quizzes required. So overall, if you've completed Latin 1, you shouldn't be worried about go ahead and completing Latin 2 with CC+. If you have completed Latin from another university and plan to transfer it here, go ahead and do that and get your Latin 2 credit. And if you haven't completed Latin 1 credit, then you won't be able to take Latin 2 with CC+. This is Challenge 3's research strand, and this is chemistry. So you can only take chemistry with CC Plus in the spring, unlike with biology when you can take it in either the fall or the spring. Your course materials are the Apologia, Exploring Creation with Chemistry, just like you've used Apologia in physical science and in biology up to this point. Once again, similarly to biology, you get 4 credits for the class, you get 3 credits of course content, and 1 credit for the laboratory. So the syllabus, the grading is very similar to all the other classes up to this point. The syllabus starts off with a lab report, which is also going to be required in your guide for CC. They tell you exactly which lab you must do in order to get the credits. Usually there's 2 or 3 experiments that you could potentially do a lab report on, and so CC Plus is going to require you to do one particularly on a particular experiment. My warning is 9.2 and 11.2 lab reports are very mathy. Then you have a problem set after your first lab report. The problem set is very simple. It's just designed to make sure that you're competent with all the material from the the fall semester. It's open book and just designed to prove that you're ready to do spring chemistry after having completed the fall semester, since you'll be tested on your work during that semester. After your second lab report, which is also required to be completed in the guide, you'll have your module test, which is not in the exact guide. These module tests come directly out of your test booklet from the old that you'll get with your chemistry book. This is outside the guide. You're not required to complete it, though it is recommended to submit all of this to your CC Plus instructor. Then you have your Module 14 lab report. This is a little bit less mathy than your other 2 lab reports. It is required to be completed in the guide, and the same thing with Module 16. Finally, you'll finish with a Quarterly 4 test, which is very similar to your Quarterly 3 test. You'll find all the information for the test in your test booklet, and you'll complete it and submit it to your instructor. So, should you take CC Plus chemistry? My warning would be that chemistry is very math heavy and it requires a high confidence, at least through Algebra 2. There's a lot of solving for variables or inequalities, being confident with X's and Y's floating around, and if your student is not ready or prepared for this, chemistry might not be a great fit for them. However, I would recommend that you go through the fall with chemistry before deciding whether to take CC Plus chemistry in the spring. This is what I did. I generally knew going in that I had a pretty high Algebra 2 confidence, but after taking the fall without CC Plus, I knew that I wanted to take CC Plus in the spring. You don't have to decide before you start chemistry. Now, the fall is very representative of what the spring holds. If you are confident and you feel prepared after the fall, then you should be as well for the spring. Overall, I would give chemistry a medium recommendation because many students don't have math confidence that's needed for this subject. But if you do, don't hesitate and go ahead and take it. So really, it's more of a low recommendation for students who don't have strong math skills and a high recommendation for those who have taken it in the fall, enjoy it, and feel prepared to take it in the spring. So this is CC Plus's reasoning strand for the fall. They have a fall subject and they have a spring subject that are different. The fall subject is music theory. Music theory has a textbook which is created by Classical Conversations called Math in Motion. and it teaches students the fundamentals of music and score analysis. Students earn 3 credit hours for this class. The grading scale is very similar to all of the other CC plus classes taken up to this point. Here is a list of the activities your student will have to complete with this course. So, because the workbook for Math in Motion comes with a full answer key, the instructor actually has or will send out and grade separate assignments for the course. They are very representative of what you'll find in your Math in Motion workbook, but you don't have access to the answer key. They're largely open note, though you may have several small, very easy closed book assignments within each of the exercises each week. So you can see the first exercise covers the first probably about 5 weeks of material. You can see week 5 is when it's due here. The next exercises, along with the chapter 1 through 5 review, covers materials in chapters or in weeks 6 and 7, along with the closed book chapter 1 through 5 review, which is essentially your matching definitions with their terms. And then you have next set of assignments due week 9 and your week 11 assignments with another closed book review. Same thing on week 13, followed by your score analysis presentation, which is a big project. So the score analysis presentation is technically the only thing within the guide, and the requirements are a little bit more specific and strict than what is in the CC guide. At least many students will choose to alter what is in the guide because it's a lot of work. You have to do a full analysis of 3 scores followed by a good presentation. Would I recommend music theory? Let's consider what we've already talked about. You have many assignments which are not within the CC guide, but are already very similar to what you'll be learning in music theory that year. And if you're confident with what you've learned in the textbook, you should have no problem applying it to the worksheets, especially considering that they're open book. But it's also very music heavy. I saw many students struggle within this class, though I myself didn't have that problem. However, I've played the violin for 10 years and the piano for 2 years, so I was very confident with the class and the information going in. Even students in my class, though, who are very confident in music tended to struggle with this class, so don't expect to do well simply because you have a strong music background. Generally, to decide whether you should take this class or not, I would recommend that you be familiar and capable of note reading within the treble and the bass clefs. Even then, or even if you're not, I would recommend completing the first 3 chapters over the summer to get a feeling of whether you're confident with the course material or not. Because this is really a sink or swim type class. The exercises themselves are not very hard. The final project is very difficult and generally takes about a month beforehand to prepare well. And it's a large part of your final grade. Additionally, it's going to take a lot of time to complete according to the CC Plus guidelines. Overall, I would give the class a medium recommendation because so many students are going to struggle with the course material. But if you feel like after completing several lessons over the summer, or knowing that you already have the capability of reading both the bass and the treble clefs, and have the time to be able to commit in November to doing a thorough score analysis presentation, and you're confident with all of these things, then CC plus music theory could be a great fit for you. If, on the other hand, you don't have the time, such as about 10 hours in November, this extra time to be able to put forth to creating a good presentation, and don't have a music background, then you may struggle with CC plus music theory. So as I said, overall I'd give it a medium recommendation. I'd encourage you to consider it, but please take into account your confidence with music already. This is CC Plus's Composition 1 or Exposition strand. You have the opportunity to take this in both the fall and the spring, so I have the fall syllabus pulled up. The spring syllabus is very similar. I took Composition 1 when I was in Challenge 2, but I'll still give some tips because I completed this class, Shakespeare and Poetry, following the guide, even though I didn't take the CC Plus class. So during the fall, you have two texts that you have to read by William Shakespeare. In the spring, there are three texts because you complete one essentially over Christmas break. The class earns you 3 credit hours, and the grading is very similar to all of the other classes with CC+. So the assignments. You have a timed writing that you have to complete at the beginning of the semester. This is largely outside of the guide, and you'll just receive a prompt to have about an hour and 15 minutes to write a persuasive essay on it. This is completely non-Shakespeare related. Then you'll have a pre-writing where you have to turn in an outline, essentially for Much Ado About Nothing. Then you turn in your actual essay, which is in the guide. Finally, you have a textual analysis on Much Ado About Nothing, followed by an essay draft of Julius Caesar, and then your revised essay, where your teacher will grade your essay, give you edits, you incorporate them, and you may even be required to give a paragraph of reflection on the revision process. So there are several of these assignments which are not within the guide. The timed writing, the pre-writing, the textual analysis, I believe, is not within the guide, and the revised essay are not. However, they're not going to take very much time outside the guide to complete because hopefully you already generally complete outlines before creating your essays, or you already go back and put time into editing and revising your essays. So these extra assignments are not going to be too difficult. Overall, I'd recommend this class even for students who are not super capable in their writing abilities because it is going to be so important for students when they go to college. Additionally, it'll set you up to be able to take Composition 2 in Challenge 4. You can take it both in the fall and the spring, as I already mentioned, so you can pick which semester works best for you and your schedule. This is such an important class, and the assignments are very similar to what you'll already be completing in the guide. Overall, I would give this course a high recommendation. This is the debate strand for Challenge 3, American History. One important thing to note is that if you take it in the fall, you get American History 1 credit, and if you take it in the spring, you get an American History 2 credit. But in order to take it in the spring, you must have taken CC Plus American History in the fall. So the textbook that's required for this class is A Patriot's History of the United States. One thing that's very important to note is this textbook requires a lot of reading. It generally took me about an hour to an hour and a half every single day, 4 days a week, to read through the textbook for the class. I did take some notes, but if you take CC Plus, you'll probably want to do that as well. In addition, some weeks I would have to write papers or prepare speeches, so this class is very time intensive. So you will learn 3 credit hours for the fall. If you choose to continue into the spring, which I would highly recommend if you enjoyed the fall, then you'll get another 3 credit hours. Grading scale is very similar, again, to all the other classes, This gives you a little bit more information than the syllabuses for other courses will, but again, an A is a 94 to 100%. So here is the course syllabus. The first topic or assignment that you're required to send in is your research paper. This research paper is required for your local guide or for your local CC community. And they might give you slightly more specifics on what kind of topic you should choose, but overall it's going to be very similar to what the guide requires. Then you were required to send in a video of a memorized speech, which is the exact same as what's in the guide. And they do give you, again, a little bit more requirements on the topic that you should pick. And you're required to use a poster or another visual aid. Then you have a second research paper, very similar to your first again, maybe slightly more specific in their requirements, but they're exact same in length requirements and formatting requirements. Then you have to send in a video of you doing Lincoln-Douglas debate. They give you several topics that you should pick from, but it's important to note that my community actually chose a topic outside of the one suggested. I asked my CC Plus professor if it was alright if we picked a different topic and told him which one my community was considering. And he approved it, even though it wasn't within the guide. Finally, you're required to submit a timeline. If you did Western cultural history in Challenge 2, then you'll be very familiar with this. One important difference to note is that you are required to have 100 items on your timeline, and you have to have a minimum word length along with 3 additional items that have a longer word length on the timeline. My suggestions for this would be to take notes whenever you're reading your textbook and add about 8 items to the timeline after every week so it doesn't begin to build and become a huge struggle to put together a 15-page timeline, or at least that's how long my timeline was at the very end of the semester. It'll be a lot less work if you don't work, or if you work ahead and go ahead and complete it then. Should you take American History CC Plus? I would highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. However, it's important to note that this class requires a lot of reading, and it's very easy for students to get behind. This may not affect your ability to turn in your assignments so much because you don't have quizzes on your reading from each week. You just have papers and speeches that you have to turn in. However, in order to learn American history well, it is important to generally keep up with the reading. But if you're considering not taking American history because of this heavy reading and world history instead, I would also warn you there. World history also requires a significant amount of reading, in fact, just as much as American history. So, as long as you are able to keep up with the reading, you're a relatively strong reader, or even if you're not, you are able to get the audio versions that are available of Patriots History, I would highly recommend this class. Even though it was a lot of reading, I definitely learned way more taking CC Plus American History than I would have if I hadn't. My assignments were done much better and really much more confidently than if I hadn't taken the class. Additionally, if you enjoy it the first semester, it'll enable you to take it in the second semester as well. I would give the class a high recommendation, especially because it pairs well with speech, and it really is a 2-for-1 if you take both of the classes. In debate, it's called the Fundamentals of Speech. Students will do a lot of public speaking throughout learning American history, and CC Plus offers a college credit for it. It's only offered in the fall, and in my opinion, it's a great pair with American history, but I'll talk about that later. So you get 3 credits for speech by taking this class, and the grading scale is very similar to all the other CC Plus classes. here are some extra notes on what the requirements are for each of the assignments and how they're graded. So here is the syllabus. And one thing I want you to note is look at the weighted course percentages of each of these things. You want to be very confident on the assignments that you're going to be turning in because they are a huge portion of your grade. But there's only 3 assignments. The first one is your expository speech, which is in American history and is required to be completed on the guide. The second one is your impromptu speech, also from American history, and is also required to be completed in the guide. And the final one is a choice of speech between either your dramatic interpretation of Much Ado About Nothing or Julius Caesar, or an excerpt from your Lincoln-Douglas debate. I would highly recommend choosing the excerpt from your Lincoln-Douglas debate because you also complete this with American history for CC+, though the dramatic interpretation is required in guide as well. All 3 of these assignments are required to be completed in the CC guide. I would highly recommend you take the speech class because all 3 assignments are already required for the students to complete them within the guide. I would also recommend that you pair this at least with American History 1 because 2 out of the 3 assignments are required to be turned in for American history, the expository speech, and potentially parts of your Lincoln-Douglas debate. Finally, the impromptu speech is not required to be turned in for American history, but if you are completing the American history coursework well, then you're going to be very confident knowing all the material that you need to in order to complete an impromptu speech. This is very similar to the one you did in Challenge 2, however, you're a little bit more familiar with the topic that you may choose. Additionally, as I already said, it's only 3 assignments. It's not a ton of extra work. If you're not a confident speaker, then this could be a great opportunity for you to improve your skills. And if you are, then why not get college credit? I would highly recommend the class. I'll post the link that I used in order to access all the syllabuses in the description for this class. One important thing to note, if you didn't catch my slide earlier in the video, is I didn't cover philosophy, which is a CC Plus course offered in your spring semester because the materials were changing from when I took it. I used Consequence of Ideas by R.C. Sproul when I was taking it, and the textbook is changing, so I know the assignments and requirements could potentially change as well. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found the material in it helpful. If you have any questions about the video or any idea for future topics, please let me know down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.